Hello. In this video, I would like to describe what meditation is, why you might want to practice it, and then I'll walk you through how I like to meditate, and you can try it out and see how it works for you. So, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, he describes, actually, Vivekananda gives this illustration in his commentary that you are like a lake. So imagine the lake. There's the bottom of the lake, there's all of the water, and then on the surface, there's waves. And he says that you are actually the bottom of the lake, is your true nature, your true soul. The water is what's called the chitta, which is basically means the mind stuff. This is essentially your sense perceptions, your brain, and even your conscious mind. And then on the surface, the waves are the thoughts that are produced by the chitta. So the goal of meditation, then, according to Patanjali, is to restrain the waves, settle the water, so that you can see the bottom of the lake, which is your true self. So the way that this is done, Patanjali says to focus on something. And he gives a few examples of what you can focus on. Sometimes that's an external object, sometimes that's the mind itself, observing your own thoughts, or creating a mantra is really helpful to calm the mind because when you give the mind something direct to focus on, it will want to wander away to something else, and you will then just gently bring it back to the mantra. And after you're doing that a while, the mind will calm down. You'll start to notice your thoughts become less fast, and they start to slow down, and you start to get into essentially like a trance. So, different cultures will do this through drumming, through music, through dance. There's so many ways that you can calm the mind, but it all has the same goal, which is of getting to the true self. And before you had this experience, it's very common to believe that you are the mind, that you are your thoughts. This is a practice that shows you you are not your thoughts, and that has massive benefits in and of itself. Learning to observe your thoughts and even learning to control your thoughts or slow your thoughts has many benefits. A lot of people like to do this just for the purpose of reducing anxiety. A lot of people, when they first get into it, they find how difficult it is. It can be discouraging to see like how wild your thoughts are, how much you don't have control over your thoughts. And the metaphor that's used for this in, I think, the Tibetan, the labors of Hercules, Alice Bailey's astrological interpretation, as well as this example is also used in the Krishna book. Shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but it's another Hindu text. Krishna gives this example to Arjuna, and basically, a wild horses are likened to the mind and to the thoughts because they're wild and they can trample men and they can essentially be demonic and be destructive. And we all know that, right? About our own thoughts, how destructive they can be, how wild they are. But you don't realize, I think, until you start to meditate, how wild and uncontrolled your thoughts really are, right? So a lot of people like to start with a guided meditation because it gives their mind something to focus on, or they'll go to extreme levels of exercise, right? They'll run a marathon or they'll do something that's so physically intense that their mind can only concentrate on that one thing. And that is a form of calming the mind. So sometimes just sitting, there's too much activity to really get the mind to be calm. And that is what the physical practice of yoga is for. So I like to do a form of physical practice. Like I like to do a form of Ashtanga Vinyasa, which is a movement, it's a flow-based practice where you're combining the breath with movement. Because what that does is it prepares my mind to be still because it's so active that it kind of gives that activeness, kind of lets it get it out. Like when you tell your toddler to like go run or your kid to go run around the block because they have too much energy, kind of like that. So you do your physical practice, and then I feel in a calm state to where then I can get the most out of my meditation. Okay, so let's go into it. So the first thing that I like to do is I want to sit comfortably. I have a pillow behind me, and that's another thing that physical practice can do is it can train your body to be able to be comfortable in some seated positions that might strain your body otherwise. But you don't have to have a fit body to meditate. You just want to be comfortable because you're going to be sitting for a long time and you don't want that to be distracting to you. Your body's sensations to be, you don't want to be coming out of it because you're in pain, basically. So I'll take a few pillows and put them behind myself. So it's giving my lower spine some support. And I like to cross my legs, but that's for some people, it's not comfortable. You can sit basically however you want. It gets a little cold. I usually um, don't start out with a blanket, but I'll have a blanket beside me because as I'm sitting, my body starts to cool down. Not always, depends on the meditation. Sometimes your body can heat up, but usually your body will get cooler because you're sitting. So I'll bring like a blanket and I'll even have a glass of water or maybe sometimes some hot tea to sit. Some people will recommend not having that because they're trying to train their mind to let go of any external distraction, right? So like if your mind is distracting you saying like, "Oh, take a sip of water," it can be a practice to let that go. For me, I like to have that water because it's easier for me to just take a sip of water and get back to meditation. To me, I get the most out of it that way at this point. So sit comfortably. And then the first thing I'll do is I'll calm myself using breath. This is called pranayama. It basically means controlling the prana, and the prana is the life force. And prana is not the same as breath, but breath is a way that we engage with prana moving through our body. So controlling the breath is a really powerful way to um, engage yourself in the meditative process. So what I like to do is instead of using numbers, because some people will do like inhale for say 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That's called box breathing, and it's very helpful for a lot of people. I don't like to use numbers because to me, it takes my mind away from my body and into my head where I'm counting the numbers. I find that to really ground my mind in my body and slow it down, it's better for me to go hold the breath based on how long my body is telling me that I can. So I will inhale and I'll try to inhale through the nose and I'll try to just expand my lungs to what their capacity is. And then when I think I've reached the top of that inhale, I'll do another little sip in that air. And then I'll hold that until I get this little sort of lurching in my stomach or flutter in my stomach or tightness in my chest that's telling me I need to release it. Okay. So the whole time I'm just concentrating on the sensation of that breath. And when I get that note, that sort of response from my body that it wants to move the prana, then I move my breath. Then I start to exhale. And I will exhale as slowly as possible through my nose again until I get to the bottom of that breath. And then I will do the same thing. I'll hold that breath until my body tells me to take a breath. And that one at the bottom is usually like lasts shorter amount of time because I've really sort of expanded my oxygen capacity and then drained my oxygen capacity. So by the time I get to the bottom, it's maybe only like a second to like 3 seconds before my body really wants me to inhale again. And then I'll do that for about 4 breaths, maybe less, or if I'm already feeling really calm, or more if I'm still feeling a little distracted or scattered. And then I'll go into my mantra meditation. And the mantra meditation, I generally do a mantra in my own head. Sometimes, if I'm feeling a lot of emotion, I will express that emotion through sound, and it's very healing to do so. And it'll just be whatever sound comes of my out of my soul, basically. But normally, I'll just do a meditation mantra in my own head. And the one that I really like to use is Om Namah Shivaya. And I'll go through what that means. So, Om is the universal sound. Na represents the earth. Ma represents the water. She represents fire. Va represents air. And Ya represents the ether. So, as I'm saying each of those syllables, I'm grounding myself into the earth. I'm grounding myself into the water in my body. I'm grounding myself into the fire of my own passion, my own heart. I'm grounding myself in the air. I'm addressing my mind. And then yeah, I'm addressing the ether, the spirit, which is the soul that I'm trying to get to in this meditation practice. So I will go through that sound and then I'll repeat Om, and then I will do that again over and over in my head. And I tend to also have a visual point. This will be kind of like on my third eye where I'm focusing, or sometimes I'll focus externally. It just depends. I'll focus externally usually if I'm outside because it's so much easier for me to get more when I'm focusing on nature than it is if I'm focusing on a point indoor, but it doesn't matter too much. So, anyway, you focus on a visual point, you focus on the sound, and a lot of the time I will close my eyes because sometimes the external is just distracting. And when I do that, sometimes I visualize the letters being as I'm sounding them out because the mind, the visual mind is very active, and you also need a point of focus for that. So after I do that for a while, then things will calm down in my mind. My mind will wander and wander and wander and wander. After a little while, it'll start to fall in line into the training of what it's supposed to be focusing on. And I begin to feel more calm. And then I reach these points of stillness where you are feeling almost like there's no thought happening. And in those moments, then when I reach that point, then I will stop my mantra, but I'll continue to focus on my third eye. I'll breathe, I'll inhale, and I'll relax, and I'll kind of open up my, I guess, my crown chakra on my head, but my spirit, I open up my spirit to what is it that spirit wants to say to me? What is it that my higher self, my soul wants to show me? Or maybe it's nothing at all. Maybe it's just the moment, that moment of stillness and beauty. Or for me, that's when I get a lot of messages. That's when I get a lot of guidance from my higher self that can come in the form of words. I can't hear. Can come in the form of words, or it can come in sounds or just simple knowing. So that's where I'm at with my meditation. In Yoga Sutras, they talk about kind of going beyond that level of meditation into other levels of samadhi. But for me, I am not there. I don't even feel the need to get to those other states at this point in my journey.